I've got a final question for you before we wrap up, and it's this. What advice would you give to actuaries who find themselves in an ethical dilemma?
So there's a few things you can do to help work through your ethical thinking. The first and probably the most important, I think, is consult. Talk to other people. It's really hard to work through an ethical issue by yourself. No one should have to do that. So find a peer, find a colleague, find a mentor, someone that you feel like you can share this issue with, to talk it through. Not because they're going to give you an answer, because you can't expect another person to have a definitive answer for you necessarily. But because it will, one, force you to articulate the nature of the issue and why you're stressed about it, what the tension is that is causing you concern. And most likely they will ask questions that force you to build on your own reasons and thinking for what the potential options might be.
Right.
They might do nothing more than ask questions and provide counterpoints and provide some alternate points of view. But that might start to provide you with enough information to build a sense of what you believe is the right answer. It doesn't have to be just one person. In fact, it's probably better if it's multiple people. Groups of people on issues like this, groups of people are much more likely to get a better answer than small groups of people or being by yourself. So would strongly encourage consulting others. There are, of course, reference points that you could also use. The code of conduct itself is very short. It's only 2.5, 3 pages. But there is a 50-page supplemental set of code of conduct guidance material. Now, that's not something that we expect anyone to sit down and just read cover to cover.
No.
But once you've got an issue, if you're thinking about it in the context, if it's a professional issue and you're thinking about it in the context of the code of conduct, that's a great resource just to, again, it won't give you a right or wrong answer, but it may give you questions and prompts to think about how your issue fits into the obligations of the code of conduct. And so that is a good way to just find further means of exploring the issue that you're dealing with. And the third thing I'd mention is force yourself to articulate your reasons, which is what we talked about before.
Your justification for that decision.
Your justification. Trying to take as broad a lens to it as possible so that you're not just focused on one stakeholder or one point of view, that you're thinking about multiple points of view and multiple reasons for factors to consider about why you might want to adopt the approach you're adopting. When we do the professionalism course, I used to talk about having 3 very broad dimensions to think about. One of them is, what are the rules that I'm working in? What are the constraints, whether that's the law or policy or compliance requirements or regulator requirements. They will provide you the framework that you need about what you're allowed to do. Another angle is to think about outcomes. So think about your variety of stakeholders, whether it's customers, shareholder, intermediaries, regulators, anything else. And lastly, but perhaps most importantly, think about it from the perspective of what values are you wanting to demonstrate in making this decision. Both personally, what values do you personally want to represent if someone is looking at this decision, but also your organisation and especially your profession, because we are actuaries who are representing our profession. People expect a certain type of decision making from us. So would this look like it is meeting the requirements of our code of conduct, and would it meet what's expected of our profession? And so that is by taking that approach, you're forced to articulate in a really comprehensive way why you think you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really importantly, if one of the answers that you're coming up with is because that's what the rules say, and that's your only answer, that's not a good answer.
Or this is how we've always done it.
Or this is how we've always done it is also a bad answer. And so is because I was told to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so is because this is what everyone else does.
Yeah.
None of those are great reasons to be putting forth.
Yeah, they're not strong arguments.
No.
So, okay, so faced with an ethical dilemma, the first thing is to don't try and solve it on your own, but to find other people who can act as a sounding board, not to tell you what to do, but to maybe prompt some new thinking and to help you process what you're thinking about that. Then to look at what are the outcomes of your stakeholders, what will they expect, and thinking broadly about that, and thinking about the regulations and the requirements and the reference points that we have, so the code of conduct, and also what our personal and professional values are as part of that decision, so that we can justify our decision and feel like we can sleep at night and that we're comfortable with the decision that we've made and we stand by it. So
absolutely.
Yeah, some great advice there today, Stu.